Reflections on the Good News of Jesus Christ for the fourth Sunday of Lent from the Gospel according to John. As Jesus passed by, he saw a man who was blind from birth. Jesus spat on the ground and made clay with the saliva and smeared the clay on the blind man's eyes and said to him, "Go, wash in the pool of Siloam," a name which means sent. So he went and washed and came back able to see. His neighbors and those who had seen him earlier as a beggar said, "Isn't this the one who used to sit and beg?" Some said, "It is." But others said, "No, he just looks like him." He said, "I am." They brought the one who was once blind to the Pharisees. Now Jesus had made clay and opened his eyes on a Sabbath. So then the Pharisees also asked him how he was able to see. He said to them, "He put clay on my eyes, and I washed, and now I can see." So some of the Pharisees said, "This man is not from God, because he does not keep the Sabbath." But others said, "How can a sinful man do such signs?" And there was a division among them. So the Pharisees said to the blind man again, "What do you have to say about him, since he opened your eyes?" The man said, "He is a prophet." They answered him, "You were born totally in sin, and are you trying to teach us?" Then they threw him out of the temple. When Jesus heard that they had thrown him out, he found him and said, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" He answered, "Who is he, sir, that I may believe in him?" Jesus said to him, "You have seen him, and the one speaking with you is he." The man said, "I do believe, Lord," and worshipped him. The good news of the Lord. Have you ever noticed how many blind people Jesus heals? With the possible exception of lepers, Jesus heals more people of blindness than of any other condition. Why so many blind people? Was it something in the water? No, I don't think so. The point Jesus is making, and it is very obvious in today's gospel, is that sometimes people who have the gift of physical sight are quite blind to the realities of God. As the old country song puts it, there are none so blind as those who will not see. And sometimes those people may include you and me. We are among those who may need to be healed of blindness, and we may not even realize it. Of course, there are different kinds of blindness, such as years ago, a boy was collecting berries in the woods near his southern home. He was concentrating on filling his bucket and his mouth with the delicious fruit, and paying little attention to how deep he was going into the forest. The boy didn't notice the dark clouds forming on the horizon. Then he heard crashes of thunder. Darkness enveloped the woods, and he suddenly realized that he was lost. The terrified youngster started to run, with no sense of where he was going. Then he remembered what his parents had taught him. When you're lost, stop and be still. Look around and listen. So the boy stopped running and stood still. And he observed the lightning strikes illuminating the forest landscape. With each lightning flash, he was able to see a bit farther ahead and walk a little closer to his destination until he found his way home, guided by the storms that had at first terrified him. When you're lost, or life has become very dark, what, or better, who, is the light that you rely on to show you the way? Or do you choose just to stay in the dark? In today's gospel, Jesus heals the eyes of a blind beggar using mud and saliva. Now, at that time, people believed that saliva could heal. By using mud, Jesus is helping us to recall the story of God using mud to create Adam, the first man. Here, too, there is a new creation. Jesus is making a new person. St. Paul calls the baptized Christian a completely new person. Then, Jesus tells the man to wash in the pool of Siloam. That is his baptism. After his healing, he has changed. His friends and neighbors don't even recognize him. Is it really him? But he was blind, and this man can see. Once we are baptized into Christ, and as we grow in our understanding of what that means, we too should change. Some people might say, "You are not like the way you were before. You're hardly the person we used to know." And that is what they should be saying. Even greater than curing the man born blind is Jesus opening the eyes of those around him to see the presence of God in their midst. Frightened by the storm, the little boy remembers his parents' wise advice: stop and look, see the light, and make your way towards it. The Christ of Lent is that light that illuminates those times and places in which we can realize the love of God in our midst and let it shine through us. Like the Jewish leaders and the temple officials, we sometimes become so obsessed trying to find God where God is not that we fail to see God where God actually is. We desperately want to know where God is when tragedy befalls us. We live our lives with the erroneous notion that God is found only at certain times in the rituals and pious practices our religion specifies. The reality is that God is present in the simple, ordinary doings of life, in the kindness and love of others, in life itself, and the gifts of the earth to sustain that life. Have you ever looked for God in your moments of darkness? Perhaps you can see God at work in this small event, during the middle of the night. Kent Nerburn, in his book, Make Me an Instrument of Your Peace, writes about his experience of driving a cab for a living. He remembers one night in particular when he received a call at 2:30 in the morning to go to a small brick fourplex. Thinking he was going to pick up some late-night partiers or someone who had just had a fight with his or her spouse, he was surprised when a small woman in her 80s answered the door. She wore a print dress and an old-fashioned pillbox hat. By her side was a small nylon suitcase. The apartment was empty, except for a few pieces of furniture covered with sheets and a cardboard box filled with photos and glassware. The driver picked her up, helped her with her bag, and helped her to the car. She gave him the address and then asked, "Could you drive through downtown?" "It's not the shortest way," he answered. "Oh, I don't mind," she said. "I'm in no hurry. I'm on my way to a hospice. I don't have any family left. The doctor says I don't have very long." The driver reached over and shut off the meter. "What route would you like me to go?" For the next 2 hours, they drove through the city. She pointed out the building where she had once worked as an elevator operator, the house where she and her late husband had lived as newlyweds, the furniture showroom that was once a ballroom where she had gone dancing as a girl. Sometimes she'd just ask to slow down in front of a particular building or street corner. There she would just sit, staring into the darkness, saying nothing. As the dawn broke over the horizon, she said, "I'm tired. Let's go now." They drove to the small house that served as the hospice. Two attendants came, helped her out of the cab, and took her bag. She asked the driver how much she owed for the fare. "Nothing," he said. "But you have to make a living," she insisted. "There are other passengers," he replied. Almost without thinking, he bent over and gave her a hug. She held him tightly. "You gave an old woman a moment of joy," she said. "Thank you." Then, in the dim morning light, he watched as she walked into the hospice. Kent Nurburn remembers, "We are so conditioned to think that our lives revolve around great moments. But great moments often catch us unaware. When that woman hugged me and said that I had brought her a moment of joy, it was possible to believe that I had been placed on earth for the sole purpose of providing her with that last ride. I do not think that I have done anything in my life more important." The most ordinary and mundane aspects of our lives, our day-to-day struggles to make a living and to make sense out of those struggles, can become moments when the light of Christ shines in us. Moments when the works of God are made visible through us. The man born blind, because of his faith in Christ, now can see. Those who sin, those who refuse to listen, those who are proud, are the really blind people. The self-righteous Pharisees who, externally, seemed to be so devoutly religious, who thought they could see, were the real sinners, because they refused to see. The truth is hidden from them by their own need to control others, their love of being in charge. What if they had looked at the man through eyes unclouded by sin? They could have beheld a miracle with wonder and awe. My brothers and sisters, we were once living in darkness, but now, through our baptism, we are living in the light. We are to be children of the light, to reflect that light which has been given to us. As Jesus tells us in the Sermon on the Mount, "You are the light of the world." We might say that we are living in the light to the extent that God's light shines in us and through us, bringing light to others. The fruit of the light is found in all that is good and right and true, Paul writes. But the good and right and true can only be seen when people are good and right and true. There should be no dark corners in our lives. If we are people of the light, people of integrity, we are not afraid of the light. We are totally transparent, with nothing to hide. For most of us, that is a challenge. But let us keep striving to become people filled with light, the light of truth and goodness and love. For that to happen, I need to acknowledge that I have some blind spots, areas in which I cannot see the goodness in others or in myself. areas in which I need to open my eyes. I need to look at poor people and see more than run-down houses and littered streets. I need to look at the homeless and see more than dirty faces and ragged clothes. I need to look at people who are different in any way and learn to see more than the color of their skin or the way they move their bodies. I need to desire to see Jesus and the gospel ever more clearly so that I can form my life around Jesus and the gospel. For all of us, our Lenten prayer and sacrifice should serve to take away our blindness so that we can look into the hearts of others and love them as brothers and sisters. In union with the no longer blind beggar in the gospel, let this be my prayer today. Lord, that I may see. If you would like to read this story in its entirety, you will find it in the 9th chapter of the Gospel according to John. Thanks very much for listening. Feel free to share this with others if you wish, and consider subscribing to this weekly Gospel reflection. You may do so at our website, which is www.justanother.disciple.com. Once again, www.justanother.disciple.com. And thanks again.